Beautiful day for a good day of building. On the menu today, I'm gonna try to make all these logs support on that one single point of support. All those logs have to connect at one single point for the main structure of the roof. And so we're gonna start with that for today, so we can get measurements of all the fixed places of these logs, the primary 5 logs, so we can get measurements for all the rest. But I'll show you first how I'll connect all these logs onto that single point. Let's go. So this is the main post. This will keep all the logs centralized and the roof will span from this point out. At first I was thinking about marking the center line of this one, marking out little triangles, if you will, to have a reference point to cut all my logs to. Thinking about it, that wasn't a good idea. Simply because if you start from the center point, then you'll have 4 pieces that will end up pointing that way. But this one, this wall, if you will, is the back part and it's straight. So there aren't any logs going this way. So what I did was I moved the center point backwards to 6 centimeters from the end here. So I'll have 6 centimeters of support for the logs that run along the wall left to right. Another good thing about this gave me more room for support for all the posts going forward. As you can see, I'll show you later. As you can see from the center point, the little triangles that were left were actually a little too small to support the entirety of the roof, at least I think. If there are any engineers, let us know down below. So now what I've done is I've moved the center point backwards, and I've made sure every piece of support is at least 6 centimeters in width, and I'll have about 11 centimeters of depth on that support point. So I think that will be enough. So what I've done first is I've cut the bottom part of each log so it rests nice and flat on the main support, carving out the bottom part so it is flush with the main support. Next, what I've done is I've marked all the vertical lines. I've marked out all the vertical lines on each end of the log, so they could all meet up in the middle of this post. So imagine there being a line straight up from this point. I want all the logs to come together to that centralized line here in the middle. So they have to be perfectly straight in this direction, but also in this direction. At least that's the plan. So this week what I've done is I've marked out all the lines on these posts using my laser late at night when the sun was set, so I could get a clear reference. There are other ways. You can use a string and a level as well, but I just figured it was much easier using the laser and marking it out like that. So what's the plan for today? We'll cut to all those lines. First I've cut all the cross lines, I made sure that all these lines were a level, and we'll cut them to the middle line this way, and then we'll repeat the same process and we'll cut them to this line as well, making them all connect basically like a pizza. I've cut all my lines, or all my logs, up until this center line, and that's okay. What I was going to do next is mark out this center line, also perfectly straight, or level if you will, perfectly level. to have all the logs come to one point, so they would all line up in the middle. But I was thinking, it doesn't work that way, does it? Because if I were to do that, and if I were to put out this line for these long beams going left to right, in that theory I would have to cut the log straight down the middle, and that's of course not the right way to go, right? So what I have to do is imagine these two logs being pushed into one another. The overlapping, the crossing pieces should be removed. And while that's easy to do in software, in CAD software, that's not so easy to do in real life. So I found a trick online, which I'll try today, and I'll try and explain as I go. So what I'll have is a piece of acrylic, which I'll put some lines to as a reference point, and then I can use that acrylic to mark out the side of this beam first. Then I'll put the second beam on top. Well, not on top of this one, but on top of the post. I'll put this one aside, and then I'll mark out the side of the second beam on the piece of acrylic, which will give me a reference point from this center point, which I can then connect, and that's the piece I'll have to cut, so the two logs match perfectly in the middle. I'll show you as I go. Let's see how it goes. It should work fine. So now if I transfer this center line perfectly level, there. So now this becomes my reference point for the square, for the acrylic. So now I can line up everything like this. So, does this need to be level? It does, right? Because it will help to mark out the line of the log. I'm gonna try and do this as good as possible. It's tricky though, because if I move back and forth, that's another line, right? Let's give it a shot. What I'm doing now is I'm following the line of the log as good as possible. There. So now this is the, there, a little bit extra, just to be sure. So now I have a line from the center point, see center point of this side of the log. So what I'll do next is get the other one. Damn, that's heavy. Nice. So now what I'll do is the same thing. Put the level on top. This one and this one are perpendicular. Now I have to do the same thing as good as possible. Keep it level as possible. There. So what I've done is I've marked the side of the first log, no, the first log, this one. Then I've marked the side of the second log, which gave me the intersection. So if you were to overlap them, that's the last place where they would touch. So if I now cut a line from the center point, which I have on all my logs, this center line, up to this point, they should come together nicely. Should. So this cross point I've marked on the side of the log. What I'll have to do now is draw out this line as good as possible, cut it off. I'll have to do the same thing on the other log, and they should match up. And if not, I'll probably have wasted 10 hours of work. We'll see how it goes. Trying to connect these lines as good as possible and as straight as possible. I'll try and get you a closer look when I do the other log. It'll probably make more sense. So I have my center line up here marked. Now I have to connect those two lines as good as possible. I'll try and do it with my left hand so you can see what I'm doing. Like so. We'll get this line started. And even if this line isn't perfectly straight, that's okay, because I'll have a start and finish. And I'll connect them using the chainsaw, because I know for sure my knife on the chainsaw is is straight. So I might have to do some minor adjustments as I go, but this will give me a really nice reference line. I'll mark out this line as well, because I'll need that for the back of my chainsaw to reference to. There we go. Okay, as you might see, I did a small correction. Let me see if I can show you. You see, the line was a little curved, but by using the straight knife of my chainsaw, I went straight from the center point to the marked point at the end here. Now, the first fit. I won't edit this, I'll just put it on and we'll see together if it matches or not. Kinda nervous. Well, almost. It's not perfect, but we can make this work, that's for sure. There is a gap, but all in all, not too bad. If I clean this up, and this guy, I'm gonna have to cut out a little piece off on this side. So if I cut off a little piece of that, and then it will allow me, because there's a shoulder right here. if I cut a little piece off here, which I'll have to do because there has another log that has to go in here this way. I'll be able to move this, move it this way to close the gap. So yeah, all in all, a really good first one. Yes, they're all supporting on this one point. It's not perfect yet, but it's really good. I'm really happy with how it's turning out on this first try, because to be honest, I've never done this before. But I have a little trick. So now all the points are coming together, which is good. But some of these, for example this one, has to come in a little bit more. So what I'll do is I'll knock off the points of each log so they can come together a little bit better. The opening in the middle, I wouldn't mind, because for me the most important part is the fact that they'll all be able to grab together to form one strong centralized point. And the opening in the middle, well, who cares, right? I want them to grab onto each other and have a nice support on the bottom. So that's easy to accomplish. We'll do that, and I think that will make a crazy strong central point for this roof. And there we go, all cleaned up, beautiful. A little gap in the back here, but I think we can fix that if we push them a little bit out. That will close the gap. But to be honest, I'm more concerned, well, not concerned, I'm happy they all fit really nice and snug together. But yeah, good start. I guess that's it for this video. If you have any questions, please let me know down below. And next up, I'll probably be making some really sturdy sawhorses, because all of these are gonna need some lines to be really precisely, well, first put down. The lines have to be put down first, really nice, really precisely. Then we'll have to cut some shoulders for the mortises, and it's gonna be some tricky thing, but hey, we'll see how it goes. I hope you liked it. See you next time. Bye bye. Crazy if you think about the fact that I spent 7 hours on those 5 posts. But hey, it's well worth it.